What's up, guys? I'm BTC. We got a ton of news about 3 new heroes, Halloween Terror, Blizzcon, a big damage bug for Sigma, and more. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop a like. If you're new, subscribe and hit that bell to get more. Let's get started. We're gonna begin with the Halloween Terror event. And I know some of you are thinking, wait a minute, we're still in Summer Games. Why are we getting info about Halloween Terror? Well, Jeff Kaplan got asked about the amount of legendaries in Summer Games and if we can expect the same kind of thing in future events in the Halloween Terror. And he said yes. So we only got 4 legendaries for Summer Games. A lot of people were disappointed by it, and just the fact that it was recycled material from the previous years, and it looks like the same thing is going to happen for Halloween Terror. But here's the thing, I'm totally okay with that, and this goes to what I said the other day, which is that as long as they tell us ahead of time, hey, the event is just going to be kind of meh, it's kind of lackluster, because we're working on these other things that are going to be released around the same time, then I'm totally fine with that. I think that's how they should be handling it. The issue with the Summer Games was that we got dropped this recycled event with less content than normal and people were upset about it, but then we got 2 other awesome things. We got the Roll Queue and Hero 31 Sigma. So had they told us, look, we're just going to give you a kind of meh Summer Games, but 2 other awesome unconnected things later on really soon, I think everyone would have been fine with that. And now they're telling us that exact stuff for the Halloween Terror, which is that the Halloween Terror event is going to be meh, but we're going to get another big feature in like 2 months, and there's some other really big announcements that are going to happen at BlizzCon. So that leads into the next thing. BlizzCon, really huge announcements are coming, not just for the Overwatch game, but for other stuff in general. And I think this is because of how bad last year's BlizzCon went, where, do you guys have phones? I mean, that was just, do you know how bad that was for those guys? Anyways, it does seem like Diablo 4 is going to be announced this year at BlizzCon, and also Overwatch 2, and I put up little quotes for that one, because it may not be a sequel, it might just be an expansion. Because while Blizzard does release sequels, they tend to favor releasing expansions instead. And I do think that whatever expansion that we get for Overwatch would probably be some sort of campaign mode. I don't think it's going to be single player. I do think it's going to be more like a multiplayer campaign mode like the Left 4 Dead games, or the other Archives events that we normally get. And to keep that hype train rolling, we did get confirmation of not 1, not 2, but 3 new characters, 2 of which might actually be in the later stages of development at this point. So with Jeff Kaplan, he told us that the character Sigma originally started out as Mauga, who we met in the Baptiste story that we had a little while ago. And as they were building the character, they decided that, you know, this doesn't really fit the character profile of Mauga. And instead they decided to just design an entirely new character. So we do know that Mauga has some kind of a barrier shield, which means that when he gets released to the game, he will be, you know, a fully tank, you know, a shield tank kind of character. But they wanted to add all of this other stuff, so they ended up giving us Sigma first instead. However, another person who works at Blizzard, this is Joshua No, he works as part of the character design team. He says that he's worked on 3 characters. The first that has been fully completed and released is the tank, which is Sigma. And then the other 2 characters that he's worked on, which he didn't quite confirm any of it, but it sounded like they were in the very final stages of their development. And one of them is a DPS, and one of them is a support. Now, we know that we're going to be getting more supports, but the DPS thing might actually come as a surprise, because I've seen more than a few comments talking about how they're going to stop adding DPS, or are they going to add any more DPS until it's balanced, because if you look at the wait times in the roll queue, the DPS is going to have to wait a lot longer. And also, they have a lot more characters available. There are more DPS than there are tank and support combined. So the idea was that Blizzard was going to try to release lots and lots of supports and tanks in order to balance that all out. But I don't think that's the case, and we do have this confirmed now that there is at least 1 more DPS. What I think is going to happen is they're going to try to put out the most tanks and healers, but they're still going to release DPS. It's not like they're just going to completely forget about adding any new characters to that role. Moving on to the brand new character Sigma, there's a couple of things that I wanted to show you. First of all, if you didn't know, if you go to the Busan karaoke place, he does in fact sing. here's a quick clip of that.
Yeah. Come on now. Get down with Sigma tonight. Like a stroopwafel. Ooh, yeah, baby. Come on.
The other things for Sigma have to do with gameplay. The first is something that I had a whole bunch of people send me. There was a bug with Sigma where you could do a massive amount of damage very quickly. You could essentially take out a Roadhog in about 1.5 to 2 seconds. And it was just ridiculous. So what would happen is whenever you were attacking, you were actually launching out, instead of launching 2, you would launch 4 or 6. And how it worked is you would hold down the primary attack, and then you would rapidly press, you can probably hear me clicking, you would rapidly press the right click, which is the barrier, and it would cause you to throw out more. But as you can see, it doesn't do that anymore, because while I was recording the footage for the bug, they forced me to update the game, it restarted, and the bug had been fixed. So, ta-da! The issue is no longer there. I know a lot of people were aware of it, which is why I'm even telling you about it, because if it's been fixed, why bother, right? Because a lot of people knew about it. And also, apparently, whatever they patched with this new update broke the training room on the PTR. There's no training room right now. So, I don't know, fix one thing, something else breaks. But let me just show you on this Roadhog right here. I'm going to hold down left click and then rapidly press the right click. And as you can see, it's just dealing the normal damage. If that had been the bugged version, he would already have been taken out. The other gameplay issue has to do with Sigma's ultimate, and the fact that you can not only accidentally leave the point yourself, but you can also force the enemy team off of it. So in case you didn't know, every capture point, including the payload, has a certain vertical height limit. This is why sometimes Pharahs will accidentally go too high, and then they stop contesting or capturing, and, you know, it just becomes a disaster. Same thing with Mercy, and now the same thing with Sigma. So sometimes what people will do in order to try to contest a point is they'll use his ultimate, and then they fly way up in the air so that they can't get damaged, but what happens is they fly too high, and then they're no longer contesting the point, and the enemy just captures it for free. So, again, that's something to be aware of. Now, on the other side, you can also use his ultimate to throw everybody up into the air, and this works best on payloads because everybody has to be really close to it. So everyone is really, really close, and then you can hit all of them, you throw them way up into the air, and if the payload has been contested for long enough, right, overtime is gone long enough, then what happens is they just quickly lose their overtime and the match ends because they can't touch it. So in order to beat this, you would have to have one person standing away from the payload, let everybody else get thrown up into the air, and then you would have to quickly move in while everyone is in the air to stop this from happening. Even though this is cool, it's not entirely unique. There are other characters that are able to do effectively the same thing. I'm thinking about Hammond, Torbjorn with the Molten Core. I mean, you just cover the whole cart in that lava and nobody can get near it either. So there are a bunch of other characters that can already do this sort of thing. It's just now Sigma can as well. So it's just something to be aware of. And of course, the same characters that can avoid the Molten Core damage are also able to avoid Sigma's ultimate damage as well. So Reaper with Wraith Form, Mei with Ice Block. With Orisa, she actually does a better job against Sigma's ultimate than against the Molten Core, because she can fortify and just not be affected by Sigma's ultimate, but if she's standing in the lava, even though she's got fortify, she's still going to take 50% of the damage. So she's actually a better pick to counter that little strategy with Sigma's ult than some of the other characters would be, but it's not like it's super overpowered. Other heroes can do it. It's just something that you need to be aware of. And one other thing, a lot of people are still unsure of how Sigma's abilities will interact with other characters. And I made a video yesterday going over all of these different interactions. His kinetic grasp isn't quite a defense matrix, and it's not quite a deflect either. You know, there's a little bit in between, and there is some special cases. So go and check out that video. There'll be a link for that on screen and down below, so you can find out how all of the different abilities work. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.